How to create a content calendar that earns you money. The biggest challenge for all content creators is to know what to create and when to create it. Pre-planning your content with a content calendar solves this problem. But the way most people create their content calendars is flawed because they focus on the individual pieces of content and not the overall strategy. In this video, I'll show you how to earn money from your content by using an obvious secret. I'm Geoff McDonald and I help thought leaders and business experts earn money from what they know. Why you should create a content calendar. There are two big reasons for creating a content calendar. The first one comes from my mum. Every morning she has the newspaper delivered, and it means getting out of bed, walking outside, wandering down the driveway, and sometimes digging through the trees and the bushes to find the newspaper that's been delivered. Sometimes the newspaper guy just tosses it and it lands wherever it does. Then she brings it inside, makes a cup of tea and sits down and reads the paper. That's her daily habit. And that's the first reason you should create a content calendar, so you can be regular and consistent in providing good quality content to your readers. The second reason to create a content calendar is for you as the content creator. You want to create consistent and reliable good quality content. And you want to avoid making it at the last minute because you didn't know what to create or when you were going to publish it. What is a content calendar? Most people have a daily schedule or calendar or diary of their appointments and meetings. Typically, it'll say, I'm meeting with Reg at the coffee shop at 4 o'clock and I need to allow 30 minutes to get there on time. Your content calendar is just like that. You want to know what you're going to create, when you're going to create it, when you're going to publish it, and you want to allocate time for actually creating the content. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen auto-magically, or at least I haven't figured out how to do that yet, before you create your content calendar. Before you can start plotting time and space on your content calendar, there's a couple of things you need to do in advance. Effectively, you need to devise your content creation strategy. And to do this, you'll need to define at least two things. The first, you want to know, why are you creating content? What's the business objective you're trying to achieve through creating, publishing, and sharing your ideas? This is crucial for that ugly moment when you're sitting down going, why am I doing this? And it's almost certain that at some point that question will pop into your mind. The second question you want to ask is, what specific outcomes do you want to achieve with your content? This gives you a goal to focus on, plus it means you can organize some tactics to actually achieve that goal. A content calendar versus an editorial calendar. Traditionally, an editorial calendar showed you what content you were going to create and by when. For traditional media like magazines or newspaper, you really didn't have to answer the question of where you were going to publish it because it was going to be in your magazine or it was going to be in your newspaper. But with social media, websites, blog posts, and everything in between, we now have to answer that question. I'm creating this piece of content, but where am I going to publish it? That needs to be included in your content calendar. And that's the extra step from an editorial calendar, which talks about what, to your content calendar that also talks about where. 5 essential things your content calendar should include. Number 1, what content are you going to create? Number 2, how often are you going to create it? Number 3, where are you going to share it? Number 4, how long will it take to create? And number 5, when are you going to create it? For example, I work on a weekly cycle, and each week I produce 1 blog post, 1 YouTube video, 1 e-newsletter to my mailing list, and typically 3 LinkedIn posts. From experience, I know that takes 2 full days to create that whole swathe of content. It also helps to define what your content pillars are. In other words, what are you actually going to write about and how are you going to deliver that? And I spoke about that in a previous video on content pillars. And then you have a clear plan. I'm going to create on this topic, it's going to be produced on this day, and I'm going to publish it on this day. what a travel writer taught me about a good content calendar. Many years ago, I attended a one-day workshop run by a freelance travel writer, and this is where I learnt the art of a good content calendar. As a travel writer, he knew all about the seasons, and I'm not just talking about winter and summer. He often was talking about the travel seasons, and the question was, when do people travel? And his particular interest was Fiji, Bali and northern Queensland. And his question was, when do people travel to those times? And for the Australian audience, it was typically June, July and August, which was the winter months of the southern states like Melbourne. So he knew that his articles needed to be published before then so people could plan their trips. And then he knew it actually needed to be even before then that he talked to the editors to save a space for his articles. So if people were travelling in July, the article had to be published by April and he had to probably talk to the content editor by January. So that was the basis of his content calendar. He knew that he had to approach the editors at least 6 months before an article would appear. And this is the true value and the true art of your content calendar. It's all about timing. You want to time your content so it lands on the desk or on the website or in the blog post of your reader when they need it most. Content calendar example, a tax accountant. While the weather and the seasons in that way may be what your business is based on, it's more likely to follow a different rhythm for their businesses. And a tax accountant's a good example because there's a natural rhythm about when we actually have to submit our tax. For instance, in Australia, the end of the financial year is June 30. So there's a whole lot of things that happen before June 30th and afterwards that suit naturally in an annual cycle or a seasonal calendar for a tax accountant. A content calendar example for thought leaders. As a thought leader, your business cycles may not be so clear. So how do you approach that? Well, the key is to know your client's thoughts. And I spoke about that in a previous video as well. The key is to look through the lens of the way they see the world. What are the things that they need and when do they need them? For example, in my situation, I know that I help a lot of people around their strategy. And the perfect time for that is around the end of the new year and the start of the new year. In December, people tend to either be shutting down or finishing what they've started at the start of the year. Then in January, either they're on holidays or they're sitting around at home wanting something to do. And that's the perfect time for me to promote a strategy event. Why most content calendar strategies are a waste. The content strategies that I've shared so far will help you position and pitch your content in front of your audience at the right time of year. That will get you so far. But there is a deeper piece to this around content production and sharing that a lot of people miss. The big problem for a lot of content is that when it goes up on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or some of these social media outlets, the content just flashes by very quickly. It's like standing on the side of the road watching a professional cycling peloton flash by. You wait there for hours and hours and hours and hours, and eventually they come up the hill and they come towards you and then they go whoosh, and they're gone. That's it. That's what it's like publishing your content on social media sometimes. So unless you're going to repurpose your content and reuse it in different ways, you're wasting your valuable time and effort. You're just not going to get the results that you want and deserve. But what most people do about repurposing their content is they maybe edit it and they do the same thing over and over. That's not what I'm talking about. That's the flaw. That's the big mistake people make. How to develop a content calendar that earns you money. The real secret to making money from your content creation is to turn it into something else, something that people can actually pay for. And that means two things. You're either using that content as part of a service you deliver to a client, or you're using that content as part of an information product that you sell to your clients. This is the key to giving your content creation some longevity. You reuse it in ways that people can purchase it. How to turn your free content into income-earning products and services. The most common way people do this is that they write their blog posts and then they bundle them all together under a single banner and call it a book and publish it. That can work, but from my experience, mostly that's not a very good result. And that's because it's just a gobbledygook of things whacked together under the single banner. It's a bit like when you're cooking dinner and you're just piling on all the leftovers. Sometimes you might get lucky, but mostly it's a bit of a dog's breakfast. The smarter way to go about this is to actually go back to your content strategy and devise the strategy for how you're going to create your content and turn it into products or services before you start creating your content. Effectively, if you're going to create a book from your blog posts, then map out the book first. Don't start the content. Map out all the books and the chapters and that before you start writing anything. Then, over your 6 months or 12 months of content creation, you can start identifying the pieces that need to go into the book. The big bonus here is that your content has a double value. It has the value of promoting your services when it's published, but it also builds into something that can be resold later on. Examples of free content turned into paid products and services. The first one is from blog post to book, and I've already spoken about that one. The second one is from podcast to book. So if you're interviewing people for your podcast, you can transcribe that information and embed it into your book. And I'm not saying the book should be just the transcription of the interviews. Ideally, you'll take the key ideas and wrap that around a book with a chosen structure or a different structure around it. A third example is to go from courses to videos or videos to courses. So think of that end result being a course where the person starts here and they want to get to that result, and then work backwards and say, what are the video chunks I'd need to create? So you can publish the videos and then you can combine them all together as the course. And you may not literally be able to just drop that video into the course, but at least you'll have the raw material, making much easier to re-record that information later. So a summary, how to create a content calendar that earns you money. A content calendar is a diary or a schedule of what content you will create, when you'll create it, and when you'll publish it. Before you create your content calendar, be clear on your overall content creation strategy. The 5 essential things to add to your content calendar are what, how often, where, how long, and when. The travel writer lesson about content creation is that timing is everything. When you're planning your content calendar, look at the events through the eyes of your customers and clients. What are the seasons or events that are impacting them? Most content calendars are a waste of time because they fail to repurpose the content effectively. To earn money from your content calendar, start thinking about creating products and services. Then work backwards to create your content. If you want more examples of this, check out the link in the description below for more details on the blog post. And if you want some coaching around this, head over to geoffmcdonald.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.